haunters may take, because not everybody has an association. So I think it's kind of cool that Ohio has their own association and guys are getting together. Those type of things are pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. The guy that runs it, Jason, who's also doing the event, obviously, great guy. He's a reviewer. He reviews us every year.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Good dude. As far as like different haunts all over I've been to haunts all over the country, and I wouldn't say there's definitely, especially the ones I've been to in like the New Orleans area or Louisiana, they definitely have their own kind of thing going down there, and I love it. I've been to 2 haunts down there, and they're amazing. We go to all the conventions just to get inspired. You know what I mean? And those haunts, been to one in Tennessee, that was off the hook. But I think they all kind of got a common thread, but it's just the creative difference between, the people, the north and the south and out west. There's just different things going on. Even out to the East Coast, it's like there's different things going on. So people just kind of gear it by what they're used to. You know what I mean?
So for example, like touch night.
Mm-hmm.
Touch can be defined in many different ways.
Yes.
How would you say the Ohio haunters, how do they approach like a touch, or the people within your haunt, how do they approach the touch situation as far as a touch night or the bands?
Well, we as far as touching goes, we do it every night. I mean, it's touch night every night here, but it's an option. If you want to be touched, we offer that. But we have rules and guidelines that we like to follow, because with touching can go, he touched me in this, the no-no spots, you know what I mean? And it's just like, you gotta account for that. So we train the actors up pretty good. We have acting classes, 3 to 4 in the off season, just to keep everybody refreshed on everything. I enjoy it. Every time I go to a haunt, if there's a touch option or an extreme pass, that's what I always do, just because I love it. I think it's fun. But here, we're a prison. So if you have a touch pass, you're probably going to see the inside of a cell. You're going to get drug into them. You're going to get, manhandled a little bit. But my people know, not to, grab, those certain areas, arms, mostly, and other times it's just wisping through hair, stuff like that.
That's my point. I think it gets confused out there. As, touch just kind of means misdirection. It doesn't mean, you want to own your space as far as an actor's concerned.
Absolutely.
And kind of, throw them off course. And like you mentioned, brushing the hair, which makes it can make it creepy.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean touch doesn't mean you're getting grabbed or thrown. Yeah. Those type of things. It's just to enhance your experience.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of people, there's people, one guy messaged me, I'll never forget this. He messaged me asking me if we would put a gag on him and all those other things. I'm like, buddy, I don't know what you're talking about, but that ain't going to happen here. No, we're not that crazy. But for the most part, it was, like I said, just you kind of, the actors, they can read the groups. You know what I mean? They kind of do we have a game here. We have glow-in-the-dark like wristbands or necklaces. If you're wearing one of those, then you're fair game. Okay? So my actors here, what they do is...
Save 2, by the way.
What's that?
Save 2 for tonight, by the way.
Well, we're not doing that this weekend.
Okay.
This is like the weekend events we do in the off-season is no touch.
Okay.
It just kind of, I don't know. Some people kind of take it too far sometimes, and when you get a haunters convention... We probably could have done it this weekend. It wouldn't have been a big deal. But we've had some people get a little bit carried away at these things that aren't used to the Halloween season. So when they get touched, next thing you know, I'm getting called up front all the time because of complainers. So we just made the weekend stuff no touch. Now once Halloween rolls around, then we'll bring our touch passes back on. I'm sorry, what was you asking me about?
No, I was thinking about the touch experience.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. And like I said, we train throughout the week and or throughout the year, and it just depends on how the group reacts. And like I said, my actors will try to. They got a game where they will try to do something so extreme within the guidelines that the people will take them off, because we tell them at the door, if you have enough, just pull it off and you're done. You know what I mean? So what the actors try to do is they'll do something to them to try and get them to take off their pass and give it to them. And then at the end of the night, they all come back in the makeup room holding how many touch passes they got from people. So it's also kind of a little bit of an incentive. You know what I mean?
So where did you get your passion for Halloween? Where did that come from? And at what age?
Well, I mean, I think for everybody, even people that aren't in haunts, you know, their passion comes originally for the whole trick-or-treat experience, you know, because it's just like, oh, we get to go, you know, beg for candy at everybody's door. You know, so I guess it started there, I suppose, and then when you get dressed up and like, this is fun, you know. Truth be told, I've never acted in a haunt once. Like, I've never put makeup on and been on the floor. I did more behind-the-scenes things, you know, running, you know, actor control props and things like that. But I think it really kicked in, like, for the haunt industry was the very first haunt I went to. You know, we heard about it and it was just like, oh, cool, this will be fun. You know, this will be interesting. You know, well, I should take that back. The very first one I went to when I was a kid, I was like 10. But it was like a friend of my dad's was doing it in his cornfield in his woods. And it was just like you know, it was guys dressed up in hockey masks and flannel shirts and, you know, stuff like that. And one guy, like, jumped out of a tree. You know what I mean? He would jump out of a tree. Like, that would just blew my mind. And I was, like, legit scared. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, my God. You know, because I was, like, 10 or, you know, 9 years old. But the first haunt we went to was in Findlay, Ohio, called Ghost Town. And they just I think they just opened back up here in the last couple of years. But that's the first haunt, and it was just a lot of fun, you know. And then I went to the Haunted Hydro. That was the second haunt I ever went to. So those first two haunts really kind of got my interest sparked. So then it was just like I would go to them. I never kind of really dreamed of actually running one until I started working with Robert Kurtzman, who's a big-time special effects artist. Because I worked in radio originally, and I met him in that industry, kind of, because I did his promotions for his haunted house. So I promoted his haunted house for him, and I got to go through it, and it was fun. And yeah, he ended up hiring me on full time. After so many years doing that, we worked on movies and, you know, all the fun stuff, I guess you could say. Then we decided to open a haunt. So we opened a haunt and started running it, and I was doing all the advertising, promotional stuff, and, you know, kind of day-to-day operations on it, ticket booth and all that stuff. And that's kind of how it led. And then it led to this, you know, because we're just in the backyard in Crestline, which is like a 15-minute drive from here. So we were right in the backyard, and eventually we were able to get this contract. But then he wanted to stick with movies, so he did it 1 year, and then the reformatory just offered me the position. So that's how I got here.
This is pretty epic to have an office
Yeah.
within this place.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably heard some things go bump in the night, I'm sure, in here.
Yeah, there's...
Or I've seen that the lights go on and off, as you mentioned. There might be...
That did happen, actually, one time. Me and my one maintenance guy were doing some stuff in the solitary confinement area, and we turned the light on, and we were looking at things in the alleyway between the cells. And when we got done, we walked out, and I flipped, and that's what I tell everybody, is like, I have a witness. This isn't something me talking by myself. I flipped the light off, just like switched just like that. Flipped the light off. We took about 4 or 5 steps away, and it kicked back on. The switch, we heard it, and the light kicked on, and we kind of turned around and looked, what the hell is, you know, what was that? You know, how the hell did that happen? And so I'm like, all right, whatever. I just turned it off, and we walked out. So that's probably the creepiest thing, because it was like so, I don't know. I've never had that happen in any other light switch before, so it was just odd. That
it's going to happen. It would happen in a place like this.
You would think so, yeah.
I mean, the star of the show, I mean, this place is majestic. The building, the
Right.
grounds, I mean, so it has to be exciting for you to be able to haunt within this, within the authenticity of it. It's off the charts. I mean, that's something as a haunt you can't buy is authenticity.
No.
You have it here. You have the history is incredible.
Yep.
How do you go about even haunting it? Obviously, it's a prison theme.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you change it up every year? Do you try to mix it up? I know you're inspired by many different things.
Yeah.
So how often does that change?
Well,
or people are going to get a similar experience each season?
I mean, we have to set up and tear down because this is, you know, it's a museum now. You know what I mean? So we have 2 areas. The haunts are running tonight and tomorrow. We can leave those up all year long. Okay, but you're talking 2 small areas: the basement and the west diagonal, which we call the house. We built a big house facade in there. So those we can leave up and tweak all year long. But the cell blocks and solitary confinement, this hallway out here, this is part of the haunt route. We have to tear all that down because that's all, you know, tour route. They, you know, do all the tours and everything. So it makes it difficult, but to change things, like I can't change it 100% every year. You know what I mean? I try to do about 10%. And then whatever we have, like, we try to move things around. So if you think, our morgue area was in the west cell block, if you think it's going to be there again, we'll have a morgue area, but it ain't going to be there. It's going to be somewhere else. So we try to move things around and shift things. And then, rule of thumb for me, I've always, since I've been doing it, it's like every 5 years, you do kind of an overhaul, 5 to 6 years, I know people that overhaul every year. I'm like, hey man, kudos. I can't do that. You know what I mean? But we try to like change it up at least 10%, like 10% new every year. And then maybe every 5 to 6 years, then we'll like do like maybe 75%. You know what I mean?
So as far as the characters are concerned, is there an iconic character that is related to the haunt here? If I go to Camp Crystal Lake, I know I'm going to see a Jason character, right? Is there a couple characters or a couple prisoners that are iconic that people would see or relate to on a year-by-year basis?
Sure. We have one character. Her name is she calls herself Gigantor. Her name is Andrea. She is our warden's wife. Okay. She's 6'8" tall, and she's got a scream like no other.
So will I see her tonight?
You will see her tonight.
Fantastic.
I'll
look up 6'8". I'll look up
6'8". Absolutely.
6'8". I'll be looking up.
Yeah.
Will it scare you?
Yeah. Well, and she's got a scream like that, and she's very kind of calm and majestic, and then she just, so it's just like, oh my God. And I stumbled upon her. She actually worked at Ghost Town in Finland, and saw our advertising last year, and reached out to me and wanted to come and work, at this place. I'm like, yeah, sure. I didn't know. I didn't really put 2 and 2 together when she's messaging me because the messenger said Gigantor, Andrea Gigantor. And I'm thinking, oh, that's some weird name, like maybe she's European. I don't know. I didn't think that she was. So she's like, hey, I'm here. Like the first day we met, I'm like, all right, cool. So I go to meet her, and I walk out to the front where you guys are standing, and I'm kind of just looking around. I'm like, I wonder who it is. I'm looking, and I see her, and I just kind of see her. I'm like, oh, she's tall. Didn't put 2 to 2 together. And then she's like, Vic, and I was like, oh, I'm Vic. And let's go. You're hired. You know what I mean? So she is an iconic character. And her character developed kind of. She worked to develop that character. We have a warden's daughter, Victoria. She's kind of iconic, in this haunt. And then we had a warden, but we went ahead and killed him off. So. So we don't have a warden right now, but we got a dead warden, basically. He was cheating on his wife too much, so she murdered him.
So is that based on the story, like a continued storyline that you have here, as far as the warden's wife? Because I know there's 2 different stories that go right with the warden's wife, and then even prior to with the prisoners trying to escape, where they took the warden's family. That was prior to, right?
You're talking about the actual reformatory.
Yes.
She based her character on that story.
Okay.
Now
the first story or the second story?
The original.
Original.
Yeah,
okay.
the first one back a long time ago.
Yes.
She's not that. I mean, she doesn't call herself
right,
that character.
Right.
It's just that was her inspiration because she researched the history of this building and she went and dug deep, and she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I really saw this," and I was like, "That's great." I was like, "You cannot use the name."
Right.
Because that's a real person, and there's really real people. I mean, they're still alive, like descendants.
Right.
So, we're like, no, I mean, you can base your character. That's actually a painting of them right there, of her in her makeup, and her and the daughter and our dead warden.
Amazing. Yeah, I love how you kind of use the history of it, the premise, and all that, and build the stories, and off of that makes it even better.
Yeah.
Because you're telling a story, you're actually living it while you're actually going through it. So I think that
so
adds to...
We do, and we do it to a certain extent, you know what I mean? There's people that just see the building and they don't care about the history, they just want to come inside and see what the hell's going on. You know what I mean? But then there's people, like during the Halloween season, it's... can make things difficult because they want to come in and they just want to stop and stare, and look around at, like, from our props to the building itself, and we call them tourists.
Yeah.
Because, they hold the line up a little bit.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Come on, guys, you gotta go. You know what I mean? But no, it's an amazing facility. I mean,
so I saw that too a little bit on your videos. Is that you send people up in small groups as far as like the pacing, as far as keeping the lines moving? I'm sure in the fall that becomes a challenge with any great haunt.
Yeah. In the fall, it's when we up the groups throughout the night, because the lines here can get to be 3 to 4 hours long in our general admission line. An hour to 2 hours in our speed pass. We also have a lightning pass line that that could be that that kind of line's constantly moving, but to keep everything moving, we got to put we have to do like sometimes 20 people in a group. Now we hate doing that, but it's either get you guys in or sit in the line for 5 hours. You see what I'm saying? And nobody wants to do that.
Right.
So yeah, the lines can get stupid long here. You know what I mean? It gets that's probably the biggest complaint I get is the waiting in the general admission line. So.
Right. But you want your customers obviously to have a certain experience.
Yeah.
Which is real important. So
sure, yeah.
That's always the tough thing as a haunt owner.
Yes.
Is trying to juggle that
right.
balance.
And it's hard because, just a person that's coming to go through, they just want to get in. It's hard. You can't go out and explain to everybody. I mean, you guys know, it's like, well, we're trying to get through as many people as possible, you know what I mean? But, especially here when it's raining, like last year it was a raining nightmare. It rained 5 to 6 weeks. Yeah. We were open. You know what I mean? So it was, that affects a lot. So, but yeah, it can be a nightmare sometimes with that.
I'm glad that they preserved all this and then they allowed you to come in to do what you do best. Because I know in New Jersey they had a spot at Greystone, epic building. It was a Kurt Tribe building, and they leveled it.
This one almost got leveled, but they were able to save it.
I think you're one of the success stories. This is fantastic. If anybody else is, out there, of the potential of things that can be done in order to preserve such a historic site, it's tremendous. So you should be applauded for that as well. I mean, that's great.
You would think that there's times when, people will come in and mostly former inmates. Now, I've never dealt with one directly, but I've heard people talk about how, they'll call every once in a while and say this place was horrible. It should have been torn down. But it's just like, it's just more of a historical piece of artwork, you know what I mean? Considering, when it was built and everything, but they look at it from the prison standpoint, but 99% of everybody just, they love it. They love coming in, they love seeing it, the architecture. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, well, even just the stories about solitary confinement and what they would say is some people being there for 19 days and just even to try and fathom that. In this day and age, that they went through. Yes. At least you can show, the growth. Hey, this is not the same place of what you remember.
Right.
Obviously they shut it down. They open up a new place. Yep. This is not what's being done. So you can kind of respect the history of it.
Yeah, every former
forward, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Every former inmate I've talked to has always been like, I can't believe this. What you guys have done here and everything, and they love it. They think it's great. But sometimes, it's not always the case.
Well, I know the answer to this.
Yes.
Already, but I mean, what scares you? Are you afraid of anything? And I already know the answer. I know you're going to tell me no. So there's nothing that scares you, but...
I suppose if there's one thing that I don't like doing is being in high places, but that's my fear. I'm not big on heights.
Fear heights, it's fair enough.
It's a common thing, but in a haunt, cold as ice, man. You can't get me. That's a lie. If I didn't get scared when I was in them, I don't think I'd be having any fun. All my actors, when I do my nightly walkthroughs, it's they all try to get me and everything. But but a common fear, that would be heights. There's nothing like I can walk through solitary here. I can walk in a dark basement here. It doesn't really bug me,
So with the special effects, it sounds like special effects is something that you have a big passion for. Is there one thing that's out there right now that you like better than anything else? As far as an effect, I like the claustrophobia, or if I like this effect, or what do you think is one of the ones that you enjoy scaring people with?
I mean, to me, it's all about the scares, you know what I mean? I mean, the sets we have here are amazing. I got a great team. They work together well, and they're all industry vets. The sets are amazing. But to me, it's, that's part of it, and then the scares. So I like things that are going to help enhance the scare. A claustrophobia, for instance, we have one here. They're great because once they come out on the other side, they're scared going in because we buy the big ones. You know what I mean? We don't buy those little 10-footers. Like we buy the 24 to 30-foot claustrophobic. So by the time they're halfway through, they're ready to get out of that thing. So they're freaking out. And then when they finally get out, then they get scared. It's all about the scares for me. So anything that enhances that scare, I'm a fan of. You know what I mean? I go to Trans World every year trying to find, that we have the clown box, and I would promo their name right now. I just can't think of what it is, but the clown box that one of my guys walks around with, it opens up and the clown head comes flying out, and that gets him every time.
He gave me a spoiler now,
Yeah,
so
well,
if clown guy's walking around today now,
yeah, it's going to ruin it. But it's a great prop, though. Yeah.
No, that's great.
Yeah, it is great. They make some good stuff. So those types of things, I love them. Any kind of misdirection or an illusion of some sort, mirror mazes, stuff like that totally screw you up. I'm all about it.
What would you say to somebody who wants to become a haunt owner one day? What would you say to him in the journey? Because now, obviously, the field has become so crowded. This industry continues to grow. Multi-billion-dollar industry. Halloween continues to grow. Somebody who wants to go from their backyard to having their own place.
Well, that's hard because this all fell into my lap more than anything. You know what I mean? But I mean, do everything. You know what I mean? I mean, if I could go back and do something different, I would do what I said I didn't do. I would get into makeup and I would, put on a costume and I would go out on the floor. Because I can't relate. I mean, I can. I know what I like. I know what I know what I want to happen. But I think being in every aspect of the business is important.
On the flip side, I did that this year, actually.
Yeah.
It was the first time I actually haunted. Since I was 13. We
right.
mentioned Six Flags before.
Uh-huh.
The guy who built that had one in Seaside Heights, New Jersey.
Okay.
And that was the same haunt that they put up in Six Flags.
Right.
So I was always blown away by that because of that fire. And you mentioned about how tough the safety...
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just to bring things up to code, it's amazing what they have done. So actually, anybody's worried, these haunts are very, very safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the exits and the fire alarms and the sprinklers and everything that they require you to do, it's a very safe environment now.
Absolutely.
As far as going from there. But
and it should be.
Absolutely.
It should be.
But I had the chance to scare, and it was actually pretty. It was really, really cool.
I got some actor-controlled props that I use that I have throughout the hunt. And, every once in a while, I'll go down, and we got this giant rat head, and I'll go down, because it's just fun, You sit there and just think to yourself, how can I do this better? How can I really, So I have my routine of how I run that thing, you know what I mean? Just to try and scare people, just that thought of scaring, it's a great time, but, that's what it's about. I mean, it's still work. A lot of people realize that, when they get here, it's not just fun and games. I mean, it is, but... It's a job, you know what I mean? It's not easy, because a lot of people get discouraged when they try to scare somebody and it doesn't work. I'm like, well, you're not going to scare them all, man. You just got to keep going, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's what I would tell anybody. It's just, try to, from acting to advertising to tech to, everything, every aspect, learn it. And even then it's hard, you know what I mean? It's hard, it's hard to make money owning a haunt. It really is.
And haunt season doesn't end. And here we are in May?
Yeah.
It's May, and you're still working towards the fall.
Absolutely.
It doesn't end. And
we'll open again in July for they're doing a tattoo and music festival here called Incarceration, and we get to open up for that weekend too. So every chance we get to open up the doors, we do it, just to keep everybody fresh and everybody, on point.
Now, would I be able to get a blood prison tattoo?
Yeah.
Using the tattoos.
Yeah.
Did you see what they have in the museum here? They actually have.
Oh, the blood. Yeah.
But the tattoo thing that the inmates had to use in order to tattoo themselves back in the day.
No, you better probably be able to do that, but those are going to stay in the case. But I'm sure Mancy or Ricky can hook you up.
Well, we're looking forward to it. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for
we're
coming.
excited. 10 hours in the car to be here. We're very excited.
Absolutely.
Especially to see your haunt.
Yeah, we're excited to open. We're open at 8. Do you guys get passes?
No, not yet.
Okay.
So,
all right.
But yeah, we'll be first in line. We'll see you at 8 o'clock.
All right, man.
Appreciate you coming. Thanks, Vic.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Yeah, absolutely.